Good morning. Welcome to Hobby Evolution, episode 606. Happy Sunday. Madison Card Show weekend. The good, the bad, the ugly. So a little bit of everything. Overall, a great show, though, in my opinion. So I'll talk about the Madison Card Show today. Had a very social, the most social Saturday, the most social day that I think I've had, not card related. I guess the show was card related, but then after the show, I was actually surprised at the card show by my best friend since like kindergarten, and his girlfriend. I knew they were in the area because we were scheduled to have lunch with them today, but they were doing a hike in one of the parks north of here, but it rained all day yesterday. So all of a sudden I was talking to one of my dealers and I look out of the corner of my eye. I had to do a double take. It's Scott. What's up? What are you doing here? So we made a change of plans and we went to dinner with them. We also had another event that we arrived late, but we met up with some friends later. So I have like a non-alcohol induced hangover from probably lack of sleep. I did have a few beers, but only a few, not hangover worthy. And just going to bed a little later. Stress. There was some stressful issues yesterday. So we'll get into all that. Uncle Rich is with us. Can't wait to hear about the successes and issues with yesterday's show. TD Sports Cards, what is up? Good morning. Herman, good morning. So let's backtrack since I didn't go live. There's Zach and Porter. Since I didn't go live on Saturday, review what I did on Friday. And I had to go back to the Sheraton on Friday to finish up, make sure some of the tables were set up where they should be, and put some of the other name tags down. Now Friday, and I was going to do a retail run, but I did not do a retail run on Friday. Like, I've got enough. I'll buy something at the card show, which I did, which I can't wait to share that. Where was I at? So the Sheraton. So Friday morning, and I think I said I was oversold 5 tables. But I knew I was going to take some late cancels, and it was Thursday. I was getting a little nervous because usually they kind of trade down where people are just, oh, I can't make it. I've got this going on, or oh, I forgot. My wife scheduled this. All of those, late cancels. But Friday morning, I'm still oversold by 5. I'm getting a little nervous. By noon, my wife and I are having lunch, and I'm like, I think at that time I was down to 4. I was oversold 4 tables. So this was my cure for the late cancels. Oversell it. I take some late cancels. I don't have to scramble to fill those spots. So Friday morning, I'm oversold by 5. By lunchtime, I'm oversold by 4. And now it's like, okay, contingency plan. I've got to squeeze because what if everybody shows up and I don't have the tables? So contingency plans, I went back in. Fortunately, my contact at the hotel was there, so we were able to walk the room, and I could fit tables here, here, and here. I'll just have to do some Tetrising. Got it all worked out. Had to frickin' sweat. Move tables around Friday afternoon, again on Saturday morning, and guess what? Get a 2-table cancel at 5:00 on Friday. I think I took one other cancel on Friday night, so I think I'm like oversold by 1, but I had moved tables around, so I actually had some open tables. Saturday morning, I got a cancel. The first time I've ever heard of somebody canceling because it was raining. And I actually had 2 cancels because it was raining. One of my regulars said it was a downpour. Now he came from the same area one of my other dealers made the drive from successfully in the rain. But that was a first. I'd never heard it was raining too hard, so we had to turn around. I guess it happens. So I was down even more off the bat, and then of course some no-shows. Here's an interesting stat. I didn't want to share this, but I'm going to be transparent. 3 no-shows yesterday, all 3 own card shops. I find that to be really disappointing, I guess is the word. And one of them was we weren't prepared to drive in the rain, which I think is a BS excuse. And they were going to be a first-time dealer. I said, they're like, well, we'll be there next month. I'm like, you're prepay. If you no-show, you're going to prepay. The other one has set up before. The other one was a regular and said he didn't put it in his calendar, which it's like, okay, doesn't make a lot of sense. But so I had some empty tables, which is unfortunate. And I was in a chat yesterday, and it's not empty table. It's not like a the whole prepay. It's not a money thing. The empty tables isn't like, well, I could have made X more. But that's part of it. Yeah. It's taking money away from a promoter because the room and the tables are paid for. The issue is the empty tables themselves. Now this month it wasn't the case, but in previous months, especially the April show, which was really upsetting because I had a long wait list. And so I had several of those people that were told, no, it's sold out. And then all of a sudden they come to the show and there's empty tables. Well, what kind of promoter is Bo? He told me it was sold out and there's 6 empty tables or 8 empty tables. And it makes the show look bad. It makes the promoter look bad. And it's disrespectful. And I want to share this. So maybe dealers are listening, and it doesn't even have to be the dealers that pulled this. But if any dealers are listening, it's highly disrespectful and it's unprofessional. And just take into consideration, those spots are paid for by the promoters. But more so, you're taking other people's spots, especially if you're in the main room where five of the tables were in the main room. I've had people offer me double the table cost to be in that main room, and you're just going to cancel at 6 a.m. or no show because it wasn't in your calendar. That's BS. So I hope dealers that, have thought about or have done it in the past, take into consideration how disrespectful and unprofessional that practice is. So that's my soapbox. And I wasn't sure, yesterday it was annoying because you really get to learn how some people, act and I guess disrespectful is the term of the day. And I didn't want to share that because as a promoter, you want to promote the good, the fun, and I'm going to get to that. I'm going to start off on the bad note, but I want to be transparent and hopefully what I share in why this is an issue, hopefully it prevents dealers from doing this. And I know some people, it's like, oh, I don't care, because there's a lot of no care attitudes out there, but hopefully it hits somebody and they realize, how unprofessional it is and disrespectful, not just the show promoter, but for your fellow dealers. And by the way, speaking of your fellow dealers, if you're set up at a hotel show and they have luggage carts and you're using them and you take your stuff out and put it in your car, bring the cart back into the hotel because there are other dealers. The hotel only has a few of those luggage carts, and there may be 20, 30, 50 dealers waiting for that cart. Don't leave it in the middle of the parking lot. I'll end all of the bad. That's the ugly, the bad, the ugly. and jump off my soapbox because it really was a good show. So I'm going to go to the chat real quick, and we're going to talk about the fun stuff now. So we get that bad crap out of the way, and we'll talk about the fun stuff. TD Sports Cards just bought 25 boxes yesterday for $250. A lot of complete sets, MLB and NBA. I love those bulk buys. Rich says, for those who did not see Twitter post, I'm annoyed at Bo. Just kidding. Because when I went to Walmart on Friday, I did buy a Bowman U basketball box. Love it. Got a couple of inserts and parallels, no autos. Card Hobbyist, what is up? Easy like a Sunday morning. Good morning to you. Looks like P and I will do the NB New Berlin show today. Hope to meet Craig and his son. Very cool. Let's see. Herman says, went to my Walmart last night to pick up something to rip. No baseball on the shelf, only basketball and WWE Prism. Isn't that strange? How a year changes. A year ago, it's like the only thing on the shelf was baseball. There wouldn't have been, well, there was no WWE Prism, but basketball would have been wiped out. John is with us. What is up, John? Speaking of that 70s card show and many others in the chat, Hobby Palooza this weekend. I haven't consumed a single minute of Hobby Palooza, so I will have plenty to listen to this week and watch. So John's show is one of the ones that I really want to take in. Probably going to be the first one I watch, probably right after this show this morning. Dave says a decent percentage of folks setting up these days aren't actually dealers, just guys messing with cards. That's probably some truth behind that. I assumed you had already received their tape. Oh, okay. So here I'm going to carry on because this is the big kind of so this must be because John Newman was saying in New York where he sets up, it's all prepay. None of the shows that I've done in the Midwest, Illinois, Wisconsin, none have been prepay. It's basically you pay at the end of the show. I like to pay at the beginning of the show just to get it over with. I did prepay. Actually, I take that back. One show I did, Schaumburg, Illinois, required first-time dealers required a deposit, and it was like 50%. And it's like, and it's like $20 or $30. It's like, or I think I had 2 tables, so I don't know, whatever. It was 25 out of $80, say. And it's like, I'll splurge and pay the entire fee up front. So there was one show I did where I prepaid because it was, as a first-time dealer, he required a deposit. So I just paid it all up front. Every other show that I've done dating back to the early 2000s, you just pay. Usually at the end of the show, the promoter comes around, and they've been smaller, they've been smaller monthly hotel shows. So, I've never set up at the Chicago Spectacular. I assume that's a prepay. Huge shows like that where you're getting over 200 tables, I'm assuming those are all prepay. It's not like a guy's walking around, because it's a job in itself to collect the money, and doing more prepay is I think I took prepayment from 5 or 6 dealers this month. And I think I'm going to start doing that more and more, because not only does it prevent dealers from like, oh, I haven't paid, so I don't have to show up. So that, if you're paid up, it's, and you wake up with a headache, you're not like, oh, I'm having car trouble, I'm going to skip the show today because I don't, feel like getting up. But it saves me some time, and, for selfish promoter, and I'm a one-man band. So it saves me a lot of time, because what happens is it gets to be noon, 1 o'clock, and I still have a bunch of fees to collect. And this is fully admit, this is on me. This is my fault for, either not doing prepay or not collecting up, in the morning, and just kind of waiting around until the afternoon. And then, I'll have dealers, some dealers really love to talk, and, you get stuck at a table for 5 or 10 minutes. So, so the prepay is probably something, especially for first-time dealers. And I've, now that it's gotten larger, April really set the tone for how I'm going to handle things based on, how many cancels and no-shows I had that month, in along with the fact that I had a huge waiting list. So not only did I have empty tables, but I had upset people that wanted to get into the show that would have shown up, that actually did show up, but they were told 3 weeks ago the show was sold out. And so they just, probably poor tracking on my part. I thought I hit everybody up, but I missed a few. And unfortunately, those few that I missed showed up at the show. So no, I did not in these cases. One offered. I've had, now 2 months in a row, I've had people, oh, I'll pay you. What's your PayPal? I'll pay you. And guess what? They didn't. Shocking. Let's see. Rich says, I had one dealer who would cancel occasionally because he was called into work. I get that. And some of those, it's like, when it happens once, it's kind of like, I want to follow up. I didn't do any follow-ups. Like, if somebody confirmed with me, it's like, yeah, you're in. And then all of a sudden it gets to the point where you're 6, 7, 8 guys not showing up. So now I'm like feverishly following up and confirming the week of the show. Are you still good? Because every once in a while you'll have somebody, oh, I was going to text you. I can't make it. And it's like, you were going to text. Well, it's already Friday morning, but when were you going to text me? Saturday at 11, 2 hours into the show. So one of those deals. TD Sports Card says, I still can't find any series blasters or hangers in my area. Let's see. Rich said his work is hospital pharmacist. So that's legit. I get it. And I do. And I have vendors that, are on call, and I get it. But I know some of them are not. And it's just a convenient excuse. John, I thought your Hobby Palooza time slot was today. I'm going to have to go back and watch it. Dave says, unless it's a family emergency, then simply drop them. And that's kind of the tricky part, because some of these, and I can't, 1 month, it was like all regulars, that, and they were, I don't think any of them no-showed me, but they were late cancels. But yeah, it's going to be a short leash. Like, okay, this is your one free pass. Better not happen again. Zach and Porter. Oh, I skipped ahead. Let's see. Where's Zach and Porter? Oh, wow. There's a lot of chats. Oh, and now I just went up too far. Let's see. Zach says, that is a great take and a great question. What are the biggest differences between a dealer and a collector setting up tax ID? That is, and I mean, I think that's probably subjective. I think that is probably an opinion. And I think each of us probably have a different take on what's a dealer, and what's just somebody, casually setting up. And I do, and I'll have guys, and I don't want to name anybody, but I have somebody who sets up occasionally, and I think he's more of a collector setting up. And I'm sure he wouldn't mind me saying his name, but I just, out of respect, in case he doesn't, he's set up at, I don't know, 2, maybe 3 of my shows. And I would consider him he's definitely not a dealer. But then I have, guys that do shows every weekend. They're definitely dealers. So maybe it's not as subjective as I initially thought. But I think it's kind of, even for me, knowing, my guy, and maybe it is the random guys. I bought a bunch of wax and I need to sell some stuff, but I'm not going to be here every month, maybe a couple every few months or whatever. Let's see. Dealers should bring their own wheels, full stop. Rich says, for those who mess up, yes, but for those who have real issues, which do come up, it's okay. And yeah, it is. It's a slippery slope at times, because especially here in Wisconsin, in the winter, we have to deal with snow. And it's like, I understand a lot of my dealers come from far away places, and it's not conducive to driving in some of these storms. And then, yeah, some have, on call, with emergencies and all that. And it's like, it's kind of, I worked in transportation, so you hear all kinds of excuses why a truck driver is late to his delivery appointment. I've heard them all. And, sometimes they're legit, but it's like, you start to scratch your head where, in the middle of summer, 4 people have car trouble. And it's like, nobody's had car trouble. Car trouble is a recent excuse, a phenomenon. And it's only recently arisen. It's really weird. Like I had probably maybe 1 or 2 use that in the first 10, 12 shows. And then all of a sudden it's become an epidemic, a car trouble epidemic. And my wife, she goes, maybe it's gas prices. And yeah, maybe that could be. It's like, I would rather them just tell me I don't want to pay high gas prices than just say morning of the show, oh, I'm having car trouble. Let's see. Dave says a dealer provides service to collectors on an ongoing basis. Nothing wrong with a collector setting up, but I think it's easy for people to pick up on the difference. I would agree with that. Rich says, I did listen to Hobby Hotline's replay and then listen to a couple of music shows instead of what is this baseball card hobby you were talking about. Appel, crazy career. Yeah, Mark Appel. Back in not bad, making his debut with the Philly. What a wild, crazy ride for Mark Appel. He was, for those not aware, Mark Appel was the number 1 overall pick by the Houston Astros in I think 2014, and then ended up, I think, just retired from baseball, and then attempted a comeback. And I think he may have had an injury issue along the way of his comeback, but he all of a sudden is healthy. And Philadelphia called him up. There's Diego. What is up? Mark, thank you for jumping in. Card shows are still the best way to purchase cards. And that's what people ask me when I say, I sell baseball cards. That's my job. And they're like, well, how do you, where do you just buy like boxes? And I'm like, no, usually the best place I can get deals are from dealers at card shows, which, is kind of mind-blowing for some people. It's like, yeah, that's usually, if you buy in bulk, you can get some good deals. Let's see. Rich says, at my synagogue show, it was a mix of dealers and collectors selling their duplicates, actually made for more collegiality. Is that the right am I pronouncing that correctly? Collegiality. Dave says, can't speak for baseball card shows, but all stamp shows I know of require a signed contract and payment prior to the show. That's interesting. No contracts, no prepayment, nothing like that. Rich says, as I noted, with 120 tables, that's far different than when I was selling like 35 tables. Plus, Bo has 2 rooms, which makes it even harder. And that's why a lot of people were like, where are your bargain boxes? Where's your table set up? And it's like, I just don't have the time. And my mom doesn't want to come up and sell cards every month. And it is even my mom watching my table. It's it can be difficult because I'm up and down, up and down, up and down. I actually did less steps. But I did have, last month I had 3 rooms, and my steps, last month I did 16,000 steps at the card show. But yesterday I think I did a little over 13,000, but I did only have 2 rooms instead of 3. So wasn't walking off to that 3rd room. Leo's with us. Sunday Fun Day. What is up? John says, my wife uses Wix for her website, so people sign up and prepay for her yoga classes built right into the site. My wife uses Wix. 1millioncubs.com was originally Wix. And I actually transferred it all to WordPress. And I do have a business, and I've thought, because my wife is like, she's pushing me for online prepayment. And I have the business on 1 Million Cubs has the business plan, and I could transfer it over to MadisonCardShow.com, which, is, and I think I may look into that because it, or even just keep it on 1millioncubs.com and direct people from the Madison Card Show website. Now that you've mentioned that, and my and I'm considering it more. I think it's also more, and I think some dealers, because a lot of dealers want to just pay. Like, can I just pay you now, get it over with? So I think maybe that's going to be an option I'll look into, and more convenience for the show or whatnot. Her first time dealers and anyone that may have no showed or canceled last minute. Completely agree. I've got connection unstable. It's been a long time since I've received that message on here. You know, and I think the last time I did that, it was a Sunday Card Show review. Damn it. Why is my internet? Let me know, is my internet working okay? Where are we at here? Let's see. Yeah, Herman, I totally agree with that comment about first-time dealers and anyone that have no-showed in the past. And actually, this month I started, like, people said, "How do I pay?" And I'll just pay. Here's my PayPal. You know, in that way, it's like, and I have a spreadsheet with all the dealers, and it's just boom, paid. Don't have to track down. Cooter's with us. What is up, Cooter? Dave says, I'm surprised the hotel hasn't told you to sign contracts that include waiver of liability. Oh, yeah. So I have a contract with the venue, but I don't have contracts with each individual vendor. I have a waiver of liability and with the venue, but I don't have to have each of my dealers' contracts. Rain is not an excuse as an outdoor show. I totally and completely agree with that. Paul, what is up? Tricky balance. You don't want the same dealers because it's all the same cards month to month, but issues with the new dealers seems rough. That Minneapolis guy had good stuff though, definitely. And so speaking of that, which is what what I really love about the Madison Card Show and what it's become, I had two dealers drive in from Minneapolis. I had the Zone from Fargo, North Dakota, 10-hour drive, drove into Madison from Fargo, North Dakota. My buddy Sean came in from Kansas City. And then I always get a bunch of Chicago dealers, and then I'll get dealers that come down from Green Bay and northern Wisconsin. You know, Quad Cities area. I have a few dealers come in from Iowa. So it is nice, especially for the Madison and southern Wisconsin collectors. They get to see these dealers that, you know, don't set up at some of the other shows. So, yeah, I do like that. And I know that, well, actually, both of the Minneapolis guys I talked to, they're like, well, you know, probably can't make it every month, which, you know, 3-hour drive. I totally understand that. But, definitely looking for one of the guys in Grant. His name's Grant. He was in both of them were actually all of the outer staters were in the Williamson ballroom downstairs and all had some awesome stuff. Grant had a lot of like Bowman autos, and of course, you know, I love my Bowman, but you don't see a lot. And I was even surprised, and I think it was at the last Chicago Spectacular I went to, which would have been last November, maybe. Because specifically looking for some like Javi Baez, Chris Bowman Chrome autos, and there just wasn't many. And Grant mentioned that. He goes, you know, you don't see too many Bowman Chrome autos at shows, and he had a ton. I wish I would have looked through, and I actually didn't. He had kind of a couple boxes on the side outside of his showcase that I didn't even realize until he was packing up, and I'm like, oh my God, I wish I would have saw these earlier. So yeah, you know, it's a great all over. Diego says, I'm having car trouble. It won't travel to Jets. SAT level at Firestone, and I moved all this to her car to go. Good, really good show that day at my table. So I could pay for 4 new tires. Yes, that's a bummer. Fall Creek says it's jumpy at times. I've had that connection issue come up a couple times, and it hasn't been the case. Maybe it doesn't like me getting animated on the Madison Card Show review videos. Leo says, why not sell on your website to avoid eBay commissions because it's a giant pain in the ass. That's why. Well, that 1A and 1B. 1A, I get 0.1% of the traffic that eBay gets. B, it's a giant pain in the ASS. So those are the two reasons why I don't sell on my website. I am gladly to fork over the 12% eBay fees to avoid the hassle of selling on a website and gaining tens of viewers as opposed to thousands and hundreds of thousands. Let's see. TD Sports Card says Pell drafted first out of high school by Tigers in 2009. That's right. Yes, that's right. And then went to Stanford, dropped to 8th in 2012, and then first again in 2013. Oh, yes, he was traded to the Phillies, and then he retired, and then he made a comeback. Paul says Spectacular has next to none Bowman autos. Baseball isn't my thing, but my buddy almost exclusively does baseball and noticed that. Yeah. I was shocked because it's Chicago. I'm like, oh, I'll get some Chris Bryant's, some Javi Baez that I need. None. Didn't, and it wasn't in some of the Bowmans that I was looking for at that show it was like the Chris Bryant Affleck. So that's, a little more rare. But I didn't even see like the standard Bowman Chrome autos. Showstopper, what is up? Good morning. Got your email yesterday. Thanks for your response. I'll be putting a list together and sending it to you. Thanks again for your time. You bet. Cooter says you should have your dealers sign a simple contract to help protect you from potential claims from them or against them. If something happens at the show, even baseball tickets have waiver language. That is a good idea. Spectacular leading Bowman U 3-1. Thank you for the count. So let's see. So the good, we talked about the dealers. The dealers that showed up, awesome dealers. Awesome deal. I did have one issue. I had one unfortunate issue that I don't want to get into, but that dealer won't be back. What else? The good, my dealer friend Tom, who I always see at the Rockford show. You saw the Cub Tub last week in Rockford. He had a second Cub Tub for me. I think another 150 some 87 Topps Cubs team sets, and a bunch of just junk wax. He even had like a dozen 58 Topps Cubs cards. So gave me a good deal on another Cubs tub. So probably the first Cubs tub was about 10,000, and I think this one probably another 10,000 Cubs cards. So my count, I've got a lot of counting to do. So if anybody wants to come over and count cards, I've got about, I think probably 25,000. The count's probably around 825,000 right now, because I've got a couple big tubs of Cubs. So that was my first buy before the show started, my Cubs tub from Tom. And then let's see, what was my second purchase? So I'll go into my purchases. My second purchase was Vincent Vincent has a lot of cool stuff. And I did, if you haven't seen the video, I did a Madison Card Show live, and I tried to get to every table and show what everybody had. Vincent was in the upstairs ballroom and had a lot of like random stuff, like memorabilia, bobbleheads, various things, including wax packs. And I've got a lot of non-sport wax packs, but I'm running out of junk wax packs. So we had 50 cents per pack on some of these. So I picked up like a 90 Pro Set football. What else did I think a 91 Upper Deck baseball. I think a 91 Score baseball. An 89 Bowman pack for 50 cents. Heck yeah. Go Griffey hunting. And a 90 Bowman pack. And then so I had, I think, how many? I had $3 worth. So I had 5 packs and I needed a 6th. And he's like, I asked, do you have any non-sports by chance? And he's like, just these Corvettes. And I'm like, okay, I'll do a Corvette. So $3 for 6 wax packs, some junk wax. So I'll have to get back into doing some nostalgia breaks. So that was my second purchase of the day. Then I went downstairs and gonna talk Bowman again. Alex Ing, Graf Ing, I love it. Graf Ng, came in from Chicago, and there was a lonely 2-row shoebox sitting at the edge of the table. There just happened to be a chair right next to it, and I happened to see some Bowman color in the dollar box. I'm like, ooh, and this piqued my interest. So I pulled up the chair and I start flipping. I'm like, there's some really good stuff in here. And so I'm not going to share what all was in there, but I'll give you a little tease. There was a Bobby Witt Jr. first Bowman. There was a Steven Strasburg Topps rookie card. A lot of Bowman color. So a lot of like $3 to $5 cards in the dollar box. And I'm like, I could probably get a good bulk deal. And it was the dollar side of the 2-row. And how many cards? Do you know how many cards are in a 2-row box? I can't remember. But the quarter side, and then there was a 25-cent side that was like jam packed, and there was some color. There were a ton of first Bowmans and first Bowman Chromes, and a lot from this year for 25 cents each. There were even some Cubs cards that I did not have from this year's Bowman insert sets. And so I'm like, hey, how much for the whole box? And kind of took him by, he goes, you want to buy the whole box? And I'm like, well, maybe. What type of price? And I had a price in mind. I actually had a price range in mind, where it kind of depended on, where they were at price wise. If they were at way higher amount, I would go up to my max and say, this is the best I'll do. But if they came in at that number, I would go to my low dollar and give them that. So he's like, man, I don't even know. He's like, let me ask my friend because he knows about this stuff more than I do. So he asked and his buddy was set up at the table next to him. So I asked him, and he comes back and he's like, how about $60? And $60 was well under my low. So I felt like I got a great deal on that. So I will share a video going through that bargain box that I bought. And then the greatest dollar box you may ever see. That's how I'm going to leave it. I pulled 85 cards. I probably should have just bought them all. And here's the reason, and I'm going to give you the reason why, and I'm going to do a separate video on both of these buys this week. The dollar boxes that I bought cards out of. And then I'm gonna transition from this, and then I'm gonna transition to some observations. I did a lot more than I have done previously, and I don't know if that was by design or just happenstance. So okay, so I'm writing these down so I don't forget, because you know how I go on tangents. Best dollar box you will ever see. Swear to God. So the baseball boxes, and I really have no interest in digging through bargain boxes for football and basketball. But if I want to wait and get to that baseball box, I'm going to have to, look at something. Don't want to lose my spot. So I start looking through the basketball dollar box, and there's a bunch of Jordans, some Kobe's, early Kobe's. And I'm like, okay, I can flip these, but I didn't stack anything. I didn't pull anything out. And I thought that maybe I'll make an offer. But even though there was a lot of Jordan and Kobe's, it was a lot of modern, like current basketball, which is like doesn't move. Like my current basketball does not move. So I'm like, I don't want to be saddled with all this basketball. Like if I buy this box, I'll do well on the Jordan and Kobe's, but I'm going to have a bunch of cards, and it's probably at the price point I get it at, I'm probably going to make that money on the Jordan and Kobe's, and basically get to break even and have a bunch of basketball that's going to go in my quarter boxes. So I felt like I would probably lose money or break even if I bought it in bulk. So I didn't stack anything, and I'm like, maybe this is a play where I just I just stack some cards and cherry pick. So I get to the guy that was looking at baseball had moved to the next box over. So I started looking at one of the baseball boxes, and I went through like one row, and there was some good Bowman in there. And then I went to like the second row, and there was like a Canseco rookie. And then all of a sudden, there's like a row of Bowman, and some of these cards were just like random. So I'll tease this. I see an 83 Fleer border, and I'm like, oh, what's this? Because I'm legit. I'm more interested in because a lot of people just throw 80s and 90s cards in a quarter box or a dollar box that are, that actually sell for, $5-10 on eBay. The 83 Fleer, there were two of them, and they were both Ryan Sandberg rookie cards in the dollar box. At that point, I started to stack, and I went all the way back to the basketball boxes, cherry-picked Jordans, cherry-picked Kobe's. There was some other stuff that I cherry-picked. Got to the baseball. I pulled some absolute fire. The greatest dollar boxes you may ever see. I'm going to do a video on it this week. That's your tease. In fact, they were so good. There were a couple cards I had to flip over because I thought they might be reprints. They were not. And then to double check, I looked around to see, okay, does he have like $10 boxes, $20 boxes that I'm not aware of that these, were placed in? Because that actually happened to me at the Green Bay Card Show, where like a $30 card was put in a dollar box. And then I looked at all the boxes, every box, dollar boxes, $1 each. Okay, we're good. So I pulled 85 cards. I'll show those off this week. So that was, and I think that was my last buy of the day. I'm going to transition to chat, and then I'll go into some of my observations. Zach and Porter says, change in plans again. It looks like the Racine show I referenced is more of a collectible show. Porter and I are heading to New Berlin. Interesting. At the New Berlin Ale House. 2 row equals 1,600 raw cards. Okay, so there's definitely 800 quarter cards in that box, and then the dollar cards were sleeved. So maybe 200. I'll have to count. Maybe 200 on the dollar side. So probably 1,000 cards for $60. Heck of a deal. Paul asks, was that the dollar box in the downstairs room right by the door? No. So the dollar box that I just bought was the 2-row shoebox at Alex's booth in the back against the wall. Now I'm wondering which dollar box was right by the door downstairs. Was that Grant's booth with the showcases with all the Bowman? I'm trying to think of who else had. I think Sean may have had. I don't know if Sean's still in the chat. Sean was up against the wall on the right side of the room. If Sean's still in the chat, I know Sean had dollar boxes, but I didn't see any baseball. I missed him if he did. But the greatest dollar boxes were upstairs in the hallway. 5-star. He said he has more, and I'm like, bring them next month. And by the way, and I'll share this in the video because right now it's just I'm teasing you with what I found. This was noon. There were 3 hours of traffic that had the chance or looked through these boxes before I got to them, and I still found what I found. The guy in front of me had a stack. I think he said he had 120 some cards. I'm just wondering what he had because he skipped over some absolute crazy cards in the dollar for $1. So I'm curious what was in there that I missed, or what was in there at 9-10 a.m. Zach says, Frank, the neighbor, is going to start putting Bowman color in his grass clipping bags, so Bo takes it to the salvage yard. Paul says, downstairs by the door was price it marked, but very little was over $5. Willing to bulk deal, had good stuff. Interesting. There's Sean. I only had a couple dollar boxes, but no baseball. Okay, so I saw the football and basketball. My good ones I didn't have with me on this road trip. So I'll transition to bargain boxes. Bargain boxes were hot yesterday. The trend was, and I heard multiple dealers say, the dealers that had both showcases and bargain boxes, their bargain boxes got more traffic than their cards and showcases. So bargain boxes were the play yesterday, and actually a dealer and another customer were talking about that. The buyer that was talking to the dealer said, he's like, yeah, I'm transitioning to cheap raw cards. So there was a big transition. Actually, 5-star that I mentioned with the dollar boxes, he had a bargain slab box, $5 slabs. That's the first time I've seen some $5 slabs at various shows, but they're like 98 Bowman. They're back when it was probably $4 for bulk subs. But yeah, so the play yesterday was bargain boxes. Those were hot yesterday. Yesterday's show, I had more dealers with bargain boxes as opposed to previous shows. In the past, it's been, excuse me, it's been kind of weak on bargain boxes. And there was a nice, I think yesterday's dealers, I think I had probably the best variety yesterday than any other Madison Card Show, because I had like with Grant and his Bowman Chrome Auto, Sean's setup, because it's been vintage heavy at times, and that was a knock early. The first couple months of the show, last April and May, the knock was there's not enough vintage. Now there's a lot of vintage, and it's like, where's the Bowman Chrome Autos? So there's there was a little bit, my vintage dealers were there. I had some dealers that aren't there, every month, that had modern stuff, more bargain boxes than before. So a nice mix and a nice variety. Sean said, yes, bargain boxes did well. I had bought a ton of game used jersey cards I bought in Spokane. I was going to take to KC, but these awesome older ladies completely bought me out what I had. You are not the only one. Who was I talking to? The same women bought a ton of stuff from another guy. It might have been Dan. And they're like, yeah, they bought like $400 of bargain cards from me. Dang, I'm trying to remember who it was. Maybe it was Cordell. The two ladies spent the first 2 hours of the show on the first floor between tables. I told them they will love the singles club at the National. Yes. So yeah, it was probably between you and Cordell. I think it was Cordell who was on he had the entire wall on the opposite side of the room. And I think he's like, yeah, they bought like over $400 worth of, and he's like, I gave him a great discount. So that's awesome. That is totally cool. So other observations, baseball was definitely, from what I saw, and the reason I observed this was the fact that I was looking for baseball. And every time I went to a table that I wanted to look in bargain boxes, the baseball was occupied. And it's like, well, here's bargain boxes for football and basketball. It's like, I'll pick up a stack. There's not what I want in here. I want to look at those baseball bargain boxes. And so it was you had to wait to get to those baseball bargain boxes. So baseball was the play, bargain boxes were a play. General observations. What's neat about the Sheraton in the venue here in Madison is that there's typically a lot of events going on here in town, and many of them stay at this particular hotel. There was, I think, a horse show across the street at the big arena, the Alliant Energy Center. And they had to flip the room like right at the end of the show for like a dance party they were hosting for the horse show. And I saw some of the horse show people walking the show floor. So you get some people that are in town in the hotel for other events that are checking out the show. There was a wedding, and I saw a guy in his suit and tie or tuxedo walking the show floor, looking at the tables. There was an elderly couple, probably in their 80s, and I was digging through the dollar boxes, and they were talking to one of my dealers, and just they didn't know the first thing about the current market on trading cards. And so they were just asking all kinds of questions, very intrigued. And this was out in the hallway outside the upstairs main ballroom. And then they walked in and they were looking and talking to the dealers, and it's really cool to see, getting traffic where you don't see at other shows that may be a destination for a card show, whereas the hotel brings in potential clients that just happen to be staying at the hotel or in, for a wedding or whatever it may be. And in one of the hotel, when I was there this week, getting set up, the guy working the front desk, he's like, yeah, I just took a call. Guy's going to be staying here this weekend, and said he heard that there was a card show. And he's like, yeah, it's a pretty big one. And he was asking about Pokemon. And so just happened to be staying at the hotel the weekend of the card show, and may have bought some Pokemon. So those are some observations. My buddy Scott was in, and his girlfriend were into the show. First time they had seen it, probably the first time he'd been to a card show in 30 years, back when we were kids. And so he was and they walked the floor just to, check it out. So we went to dinner last night, and he goes, I think what I was most impressed by was all of the kids. And he's like, these kids are like hustling and negotiating. And it's really cool. Because I certainly wasn't doing that at 12. Of course it was, different times when we were that age, but it's really cool to see a lot of the kids, junior high, high school, in summer, even starting even earlier than junior high. And I know the Pelican cases get a bad rap by, some of us old codgers, but it's really cool to see. And I know we need kids in the hobby, but we don't want the Pelican cases. It's like, no, we need the Pelican case kids, because those are the future dealers and of the hobby. That's what's going to drive this hobby. It's not going to be, kids buying 50-cent packs of cards and collecting sets. Like that's part of it. But we also do need the kids that want to make deals on high-end cards and carry around Pelican cases. It's without, I think we need a little bit of both. We need both sides of it in the hobby. So those were some general observations. Am I missing anything? I don't think I'm missing anything. So yeah, next show is Saturday, July 23rd. Sheraton Hotel, John Nolen Drive, Madison, Wisconsin, July 23rd. Traffic was slightly up over the May show. So what was unique about yesterday, it did rain most of the day, which I liked. I want rain, but I don't want super heavy downpour rain, but I don't want sunny skies either. In Madison, we have, two giant lakes, right around the downtown area that are very popular in the summer months. So that's hard competition in the summer months. But I saw some, kids in baseball, Little League baseball uniforms, because they were likely rained out coming out to the card show. I had my buddy Kurt wasn't planning on coming to the card show, but because it rained, he had time. He was going to go to the Brewers game and planned on tailgating, but the rain, pun intended, washed away their tailgate plan. So he's like, now I got some free time. I'm going to come out, check out the card show. So that's why I like rain. I like rain on a card show, not like tornadoes and severe thunderstorms, but rain. A nice cloudy day with rain. It can clear up at 3. So I think that helped. I think the traffic was up. I was actually very surprised, but there was a morning rush, but it wasn't your typical like drawn out 2 to 3 hour morning. It was kind of shorter. It was like an hour and a half, maybe an hour and a half, where it was like, holy crap, I'm really impressed by this crowd. But then by 11:30, it kind of peaked out. It was late arriving. I don't think it really got hustle and bustle until 9:30, maybe even 10. But then by 11:30, it was really slowing down. But then it was steady. Once it slowed down, it was still steady, because in the May show, even the upstairs room, I mean, like 2:00, half the dealers were packing up, whereas that really wasn't the case this month, yesterday. So traffic was slightly up over May. And it was kind of a lingering crowd, which is good. It just doesn't die and there's nobody in the room, which is good. I think July is going to be up. I had a couple people asking me about that. What are your thoughts on July? Based on last year, here's what I think. I thought the June show was going to be heavily trafficked and a big show because I had much higher demand dealer-wise for June last year. I think I went from 23 tables in May to 35 tables in June. So I'm like, wow, this is a big increase month to month. But I had far less customers last June compared to last May. Then July, I was like, it's going to be July. It's right before the National. And the National was in Chicago, which is only 2 hours from Madison. And I'm like, people are just going to wait and go to the spend their money at the National. 90% of the people I talked to were not planning on going to the National, and it was just down the road. This year, the National is in Atlantic City. So I think we'll actually see, I know we're going to have more traffic than last July just because of the way the show has grown. I think I dropped back. I think I was only at 30 tables last July. I had less dealers from June to July. I think I'm going to be steady right now. I think we're going to fill both rooms. So 120 tables, no doubt in my mind. And I think traffic's going to be up. I think July should be a decent show. And then I think you'll start to see it pick up. And I think one of my dealers, it might have been Grant downstairs from Minneapolis. He was asking, what are typically the better trafficked months? And I said, winter, pending weather, if it's not snowing, the January show was just bursting at the seams. And that's why I had to open up a second room, because people were upset in leaving early because they couldn't look at anything because it was shoulder to shoulder in that main ballroom. So the November show was great. So, and I'm doing a December show this year. So I think the winter shows, and I think once we get out of summer, people get out of their, summer vacations are over, back to routines for school and all that. I think August, September, starts to trickle up and we see big numbers in the winter months, pending the weather. Let's see. Low Roller says they need to bring back 50 cents per pack since people can afford it to buy sports cards again. It will help poor people enter into sports cards. There's a lot of low end options for collectors. There's a lot of entry level options at that price point. LeBron James logo man sold $2 million, but everyone expected $6. I think everyone expected 2 million or less. I think there were only 4 or 5 people that thought it was going to be 6 million. And those 4 or 5 people were the people screaming from the rooftops at Golden and Backyard and the people pumping that card. I think most people within the hobby thought 6 million, you're crazy. It's not a 6 million. It's not going to sell for that much. It sold for, I think, 2.4 million, the triple logo man LeBron James, which I don't know that market, but I think it's probably right in line with what I would have expected it to sell for. Sean says, have to go. Great show. Thank you. I appreciate that. Thanks for coming out. Hopefully I will see you next month or in August. Herman says we have that at one of our chicken shows at Clemson at the Garrison Arena. Cooter says some Pelicans are noisy, annoying, and leave a big mess wherever they rest. The others are birds. They have 2 arenas side by side. We always have people from the other checking out our show. Even got to see an alpaca show once. Very nice. All kidding aside, the Pelicans do bring attention and liquidity to the hobby. Low Roller says, are you planning to release more Ric Flair cards in your store since Ric Flair's final match is next month? I think I have every Ric Flair card I think is listed. I don't have a big wrestling card inventory. I've got a lot of the 91 WCWs, and I probably have some listed in my store. Those WCW cards, man, when I listed a bunch several months ago, they moved. They were selling crazy, And then I put like almost the complete setup as singles, and they just haven't moved. I've sold like a Ric Flair and a Sting, and I think I sold a Ricky Morton recently. I sold a Ric Flair card today. Oh, were you the buyer? If so, thank you. So yeah. So that's the Madison Card Show recap. I hate to start it the way I did, griping and complaining, but I just wanted to bring transparency to, the no-shows and the cancellations. It's just a crappy move. So don't do it. My next show, I will be set up as a vendor next Sunday, July 3rd, in Janesville, Wisconsin. So come out. I'll have, I'm going to bring back the quarter boxes, and I'm doing something I've never done before. I'm going to put quarter boxes unsleeved in the quarter boxes just because time constraints. And I want to bring a fresh inventory because some of the stuff I have is stale. And so I want to bring fresh inventory. I had a lot of people ask me in Rockford about my quarter boxes. How come you didn't bring your quarter boxes? Well, I had these dollar boxes in Green Bay and I wanted to try this out, and I did okay, but I think I'm just going to roll with the quarter boxes. So we'll see. And I'm just not going to sleeve. I'll bring some sleeves. If people want sleeves, they can have sleeves. But they're going to be unsleeved, and for the most part, I have a lot of cards that, are already sleeved that'll go back in there. Let's see. Low Roller says, why didn't you film your own card show inventory? What type of cards you sold? I didn't have a table, so that's why. Didn't have a booth. 25-cent cards, popular in demand. Yep, I'm going to bring back those quarter boxes Sunday, July 3rd, Janesville, Wisconsin. Going to be interesting to see what type of turnout holiday weekend. I did my May show on the Saturday of Memorial Day weekend. I think that did hinder the crowd a little bit. A lot of people are, especially in the Midwest, people want to get out, do summer things, especially Memorial Day weekend, and it was really nice on Memorial Day weekend last month. So yeah. So next Sunday, Janesville. Lot of shipping to do. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for the great chat. As always, hit the like button, subscribe to the channel. I'm not sure when I will release the dollar box videos, depending on how much I get shipped today. I want to do one tonight. I've teased it so much, and I'm just like so happy with the dollar box that I found. Terry, what's up? Just wrapping up. So I will, if I find the time, depending on what my schedule is like the rest of today, I do want to release that dollar box video. So maybe tonight, maybe Sunday night live. So that's what I had for today. Thanks for tuning in. Appreciate it. Like and subscribe. Have a great Sunday, and possibly look out for a dollar box video tonight. So have a great rest of the weekend, and we'll be back on tomorrow morning, 7 a.m. Central for Hobby Evolution. We'll see you then.